If you're over 60, one everyday drink, something you may have had last night, could silently raise your risk of a stroke while you sleep. No warning, no pain, just one moment you're fine, and the next you can't lift your arm. Your speech is slurred, or you wake up with no balance at all. As a brain doctor, I've seen it happen to far too many seniors, and not because they smoked or skipped their medications, but because of what they drank. It wasn't alcohol, it wasn't soda, it was something they thought was healthy, something sold on grocery shelves every day, often marketed to people just like you. Today, I'm going to walk you through 5 everyday drinks that may be increasing your risk of stroke, brain bleeds, or sudden blood pressure spikes, especially during the early morning hours when your brain is most vulnerable. If you've ever sipped vitamin water, juice, flavored milk, red wine, or even decaf coffee, this might be the most important health video you'll ever see. Because what you don't know about these drinks could be the very thing that takes away your independence overnight. Let's begin. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Energy drinks and vitamin water. The sleep time stroke risk. As a brain doctor, I never imagined I'd be warning my senior patients about something as seemingly harmless as a bottle of vitamin water or a so-called natural energy drink. But what I've seen in my clinic over the years has shocked even me. Many older adults, trying to stay energized or boost their health, sip these drinks in the evening, believing they're doing something good for their bodies. After all, they're marketed with words like hydration, immune support, vitality. But behind those friendly labels often lie high levels of niacin, vitamin B3, vitamin B6, caffeine, and artificial sweeteners that can quietly trigger a chain reaction in your aging body, especially while you sleep. What's truly dangerous is what happens overnight. In people over 60, blood vessels naturally become stiffer and more sensitive to sudden changes in pressure or volume. When you consume these stimulant drinks late in the day, the niacin causes your blood vessels to expand suddenly, followed by a rebound constriction that spikes blood pressure. Caffeine adds to the mix by disrupting deep sleep, which is when your brain needs steady circulation most. This imbalance makes it easier for blood clots to form, small but deadly ones that can silently travel to the brain. I'll never forget Mr. Leonard, 77, a retired teacher from Ohio. He was sharp, active, and proud to have never smoked a day in his life. Every evening, he drank a bottle of immune-boosting vitamin water with dinner. Then one morning, he woke up confused, unable to lift his left arm. The diagnosis? An ischemic stroke. His lab showed elevated blood pressure overnight and high serum niacin levels. The culprit was hiding in plain sight on the kitchen counter. These drinks aren't inherently evil, but they are not made with older adults in mind. Our bodies don't process excess vitamins, stimulants, or sugars the same way at 70 as they did at 40. And the timing, especially consuming them at night, creates the perfect storm for the aging brain. And if you thought energy drinks were risky, wait until you hear what's hiding in that innocent-looking glass of store-bought orange juice. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Bottled fruit juice. Sweet like candy, silent like a clot. There's something comforting about pouring a glass of orange juice in the evening. For many older adults, it feels like a gentle, healthy choice, rich in vitamin C, natural sugars, and childhood memories. But I'm here to tell you something difficult. Something I've had to explain to too many frightened families. That innocent looking juice might be silently working against your brain. As we age, our blood vessels, especially the tiny ones in the brain, become more fragile, more reactive. When you drink bottled fruit juices, especially in the evening, you're flooding your system with concentrated sugars that enter your bloodstream almost immediately. A single 12-ounce bottle of store bought apple or grape juice can contain 35 to 45 grams of sugar. That's more than a can of soda. But unlike soda, juice is often viewed as natural or healthy. That's the trap. What happens next is a sharp spike in blood glucose, followed by an equally sharp drop. This roller coaster causes your blood to become thicker and more viscous, encouraging small clots to form. And in the stillness of sleep, when your heart rate slows and circulation changes, these clots can travel, often to the brain. Stroke, in these moments, arrives with no warning. One of my patients, Mrs. Eleanor, 82, had a nightly ritual. She'd watch the news with a glass of 100% pure white grape juice. She didn't like soda, avoided coffee, and tried to make good choices. One morning, she didn't come out of her room. Her daughter found her sitting in bed, alert but unable to speak. A stroke had taken her language, just like that. Her glucose had spiked during the night, and imaging showed a small clot in the left hemisphere of her brain. The only change in her routine? That harmless nightly juice. For seniors, especially those with even mild diabetes or hypertension, even natural sugars in liquid form can tip the balance. The body no longer regulates insulin, pressure, or clotting the way it once did. And juice, stripped of its fiber, processed and concentrated, hits the bloodstream fast and hard. But if you think juice is your worst bedtime habit, wait until I tell you what one comfort drink does to your brain pressure every single night. 3. Flavored milk. Good for bones, not always for the brain. Many of my older patients grew up in a time when a warm glass of milk before bed was more than a habit. It was part of the culture. Today, that habit lives on, but with a twist. Flavored milk, chocolate, strawberry, vanilla, all marketed as comforting or nutritious. But what many seniors don't realize is that this bedtime drink can quietly increase the pressure inside the skull and, over time, contribute to stroke risk. Flavored milks sold in most grocery stores across America are not the simple drinks we once knew. They are often loaded with added sugars, synthetic vitamins like A and D in high doses, and phosphates used to preserve shelf life. For an aging body, especially one dealing with slower liver and kidney function, these extras are not so harmless. One serving can deliver over 20 grams of sugar, nearly 10,000 IU of vitamin A, and artificial additives that can disrupt natural calcium balance. Here's where it becomes dangerous. When you drink flavored milk in the evening, that high dose of synthetic vitamin A, combined with added calcium and phosphates, can accumulate in your brain and tissues, especially if your liver isn't clearing them as efficiently as it once did. This can result in a buildup of cerebral spinal fluid pressure, a condition that mimics a brain tumor. It's called pseudotumor cerebri, and it can lead to blurred vision, headaches, nausea, and in some cases a stroke-like event. I remember Mrs. Carroll, a 79-year-old widow from Utah, who came to me complaining of early morning headaches and foggy vision. She had no history of stroke or head trauma, but after a thorough exam, we found elevated intracranial pressure. Her only consistent bedtime habit? A tall glass of chocolate milk every night, fortified with high-dose vitamin A. Her body simply couldn't process the overload anymore. And here's something many people forget. Excess vitamin A is fat-soluble. It stores in the liver, the brain, even your nerves. It doesn't just flush out like vitamin C. That storage adds up week after week, year after year, until the pressure inside your brain reaches a tipping point. For some, that means vision loss. For others, it could be a stroke in the middle of the night. But if you think a bedtime glass of milk is the only hidden danger in your kitchen, just wait until you hear what one tiny glass of wine can do to your blood. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Red wine. Good for the heart or a gamble for the brain? For years, red wine has been marketed as the drink of longevity. You've probably heard it 100 times. A glass of red wine a day is good for your heart. And for many older adults, that small glass in the evening feels like a ritual of wellness. It's relaxing, comforting, even social. But here's the unsettling truth I've had to share with more patients than I can count, that one glass of red wine at night can quietly put your brain at risk, especially as you age. You see, alcohol behaves very differently in the aging body. By the time you're in your 70s or 80s, your liver metabolizes alcohol more slowly, your brain tissue becomes more sensitive, and your blood vessels lose their elasticity. Red wine, in particular, acts as a vasodilator. It causes your blood vessels to expand. In theory, that sounds like a good thing. But here's where it turns dangerous. That sudden expansion can be followed by rebound vasoconstriction, where the blood vessels tighten sharply, sometimes in your sleep. For aging arteries, especially those affected by hypertension, diabetes, or years of wear and tear, that shift in vessel tone can create the perfect conditions for a clot to form, or worse, for a fragile vessel to burst deep in the brain. One of my longtime patients, Mr. Ernest, 83, a retired train conductor from Pennsylvania, came to me after a terrifying episode. He wasn't a heavy drinker. Every night before bed, he'd have a glass of Merlot with his crossword puzzle. Then one morning, he couldn't remember how to hold his pen. His wife noticed the slurred speech. In the ER, the CT scan revealed a small but significant ischemic stroke. His lab showed no major red flags, except that overnight, his blood pressure had spiked and tiny clots had formed in narrowed vessels. And here's what makes it so risky for people like Mr. Ernest. He was also taking aspirin for his heart and a low-dose blood thinner. That combination, mixed with alcohol's vascular effects, can lead to a delicate imbalance between bleeding and clotting. Red wine may lower stress in the moment, but at night, it may set the stage for something devastating to happen when no one is watching. The truth is, what helps the heart at 40 doesn't always protect the brain at 80. And when your medications, age, and habits all interact, it doesn't take much for the system to tip the wrong way. And speaking of tipping points, next, let me show you how even your so-called safe decaf coffee might be quietly raising your brain pressure every single night. 5. Decaf coffee. No caffeine, but not so harmless. When older adults switch to decaf coffee, it often feels like the smart choice, the healthy compromise. You still get the warmth, the routine, the comfort of your morning cup, without the jitters or racing heart. But what many seniors don't realize is that decaf doesn't mean caffeine-free. And for aging brains, even small amounts of caffeine or chemical residues can have long-term consequences, especially when consumed daily. In truth, most decaf coffees in the US still contain up to 15 milligrams of caffeine per cup, and sometimes more. That may sound harmless, but in older adults, particularly those over 70, even trace amounts of caffeine can raise blood pressure, disrupt deep sleep, and cause subtle vasoconstriction in the brain. That tightening of the blood vessels doesn't just lead to poor circulation. In vulnerable areas of the brain, it forms blood clots, especially during the early morning hours when cerebral blood flow is at its lowest. I remember Mr. Donald, age 83, a retired postmaster from Pennsylvania, a man of routine, disciplined, and healthy. He'd stopped drinking regular coffee years ago due to heart palpitations and had switched to decaf with pride. Every morning at 5:30 a.m., he made a fresh pot, thinking it was safe. But over time, he began experiencing balance issues, small memory lapses, and one morning he collapsed while walking to the kitchen. The scan revealed a lacunar stroke caused by a tiny clot in the deep part of his brain. No smoking history, no diabetes. But we discovered that his blood pressure spiked shortly after his morning coffee, despite it being decaf. And it had been happening silently, every day. What many don't realize is that decaf coffee is often processed with chemical solvents, including methylene chloride, which, even in trace amounts, can affect neurological health. And for a brain already vulnerable to inflammation, vascular narrowing, or impaired circulation, this can tip the scales in dangerous ways. Mr. Donald now walks with a cane and no longer brews coffee at all. He told me, "I gave up caffeine to protect my heart. I didn't know it was still hurting my brain." So, with all these hidden dangers in our everyday drinks, from juice to milk, wine to coffee, you might be asking yourself, what can I safely drink to protect my brain as I age? Get ready, because in the next part, we'll talk about real, simple, nourishing drinks that help your brain thrive, not just survive. 6. Safer alternatives. What to drink to protect your brain as you age. After seeing so many of my senior patients harmed by seemingly harmless beverages, from flavored milk to vitamin waters and even decaf coffee, I often get the same anxious question. "Doctor, what's left? What can I safely drink?" It's a fair question. At this stage in life, every choice matters more. Your brain isn't just older, it's more sensitive to inflammation, more vulnerable to vascular stress, and slower at clearing toxins. So what you drink, day after day, truly shapes your brain's future. The good news is you don't need expensive supplements or trendy drinks to protect your brain. In fact, the most healing drinks are the simplest, ones that work with your body, not against it. Hydration, gentle nourishment, and stability are the pillars of brain protection. Let me tell you about Mrs. Helen, a 76-year-old retired nurse from North Carolina. After surviving a mild stroke, her second in 3 years, she came to me desperate for change. She had eliminated wine, cut down sugar, and tossed out her vitamin-infused waters. But she still felt foggy, tired, off balance. So we looked at her entire routine, and we rebuilt it from the inside out, not with pills, but with liquids. She began her mornings with room temperature water and a few slices of cucumber, simple, hydrating, and anti-inflammatory. Midday, she sipped on unsweetened herbal teas like chamomile or lemon balm, both of which gently supported circulation without raising blood pressure. At night, she replaced her evening juice with a small glass of tart cherry juice, rich in antioxidants and shown in studies to reduce brain inflammation and improve sleep quality. And 2 or 3 times a week, she added a cup of golden milk, a warm, turmeric-based drink made with almond or oat milk, known for reducing neuroinflammation. Within 6 weeks, her balance improved, her sleep deepened, her blood pressure stabilized. She told me with tears in her eyes, "I didn't know something so simple could make me feel so alive again." And most importantly, we saw no new clot formation on her imaging follow-up. You don't need fancy labels or high-dollar health drinks. You need clarity, balance, and consistency. The kind of habits that quietly nourish your brain every single day. But even with the right drinks in place, there's still one crucial piece left: understanding why awareness, not fear, is your greatest protection. Let's talk about that next. As a brain doctor, I'm shocked. This everyday drink raises stroke risk overnight. And 5 more hidden dangers lurking in your kitchen. At first glance, it seems impossible. How could something as simple as a bottle of fruit juice, a glass of flavored milk, or even a cup of decaf coffee quietly increase your risk of stroke, especially while you sleep? But after decades treating older adults with stroke, memory loss, and sudden neurological decline, I've come to a painful truth that I can no longer keep quiet. Some of the most common drinks we consider healthy or harmless can silently hurt the aging brain. I've seen it time and time again. Patients in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who don't smoke, who stay active, who do everything right, suddenly wake up unable to speak, with one side of their body numb, or with memory wiped clean overnight. And when we dig into the causes, it's not always genetics, high cholesterol, or poor diet. Sometimes it's a harmless habit, repeated every day without question. A drink taken at the wrong time, in the wrong dose, or paired with the wrong medication. These strokes don't come with warnings. No chest pain, no light flashing before your eyes, just silence. And then, suddenly, everything changes. You see, as we age, our blood vessels grow thinner, more fragile. Our brain becomes more vulnerable to inflammation, dehydration, and pressure shifts, especially during the early morning hours. That's when many of these so-called healthy drinks do their worst damage by forming clots, disrupting sleep, or triggering blood pressure swings in ways that younger bodies can tolerate, but we no longer can. In this guide, I'm going to walk you through 5 specific drinks, some that may be in your fridge right now, that can quietly increase your risk of stroke. And then I'll show you the safe alternatives that can actually help heal your brain instead. Let's begin, because what you don't know about what you're drinking could change your life. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.